Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Dallas Wings MyWNBA franchise here on NBA 2K26, and today we're here with another live commentary episode because today we're going to recap what was the first half I should say, of the regular season. So if you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more MyWNBA content as we gear up for the second half of the season that should be a pretty good one. Now, I am recording this live com before we do the All-Star Game. Now, you will see it after we have the All-Star Game live stream. So, everything we go over today will be, I guess, pre-All-Star Game, but none of that should really matter because there's no other games going on. So, we'll start with our Wings, who are having a good season this year compared to last year. We are 15-9 and currently the fifth best team in the WNBA, which is a far cry from where we were last year. Last year at the same point, we were 3-20, the worst team in the league. Your best team in the league is the Las Vegas Aces, and nobody's surprised. That team is absolutely stacked. The Phoenix Mercury, last year's champions, are at the 2 spot, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to do their rebranding just like in real life. Minnesota Lynx are the 3, and then probably the biggest surprise is the Sun are up to number 4. They are 17-6, and we played Connecticut, and they are the real deal. They beat us. Coach Austin Kelly, in his first 10 years as head coach, is doing a phenomenal job out there in Connecticut, and obviously there's a lot of talk about their future in the state of Connecticut, which we'll probably do more in the off-season intent. We are 5th. The Los Angeles Sparks are 6th at 14-10. The Indiana Fever coming at number 7, and then rounding out the top 8 is Chicago Sky, currently with the last spot. They made a lot of moves in the off-season, and it's only got them one game above 500 right now. The first team out is the New York Liberty, surprisingly, who are 12-12. Yes, they did lose Brianna Stewart in the offseason, which was a big hit for the Liberty. 10 is the Washington Mystiques, who are 10-12. 11th is the Atlanta Dream, who are having a down season. And then you got the Seattle Storm, who are in full rebuild mode at 7-14. And the bottom 2 teams are the expansion teams. Well, actually, Golden State at 13, which they're the other recent expansion team. And then at 14th, you have the Toronto Tempo, who are 4-20. And then last place is the Portland Fire, who are only 1-21. They were 0-18 at one point this season. I'm not sure how they are the worst team. I think they have a better roster than easily the Tempo and maybe even the Valkyries, but nonetheless, that doesn't win games. They've already fired head coach Noel Quinn this year, and it's been a disaster out there in Portland. So we'll take a look at our players now, as you can see. We'll go through stats. Actually, we'll start with team stats. I'll start with the actual team, shall we? In terms of points per game, the top scorer is the Mercury. We are 3rd, 79.7, which is a lot better than we were last year. As far as giving up, though, we are 4th. We do play a lot faster of a tempo game than we did last year. Head coach Christy Tolliver, who came over from Phoenix, has been great, but we do push the pace a lot more than we did last year. Field goal percentage, we are the best, 49%. We are deadly with the pick and roll. Griner and Bueckers have been a dominant duo, and that's part of the reason why our field goal percentage is so high. As far as three-point shooting, we are 4th with 34%. And then free throw, we are kind of middle of the pack. And then rebounds per game, we are actually pretty high. So a lot better stats than we were last season. Now we'll get into player stats to see who is leading the pack. And of course, if you're starting with this team, you got to start with Paige Bueckers at the top. She is having a sensational season, a great follow-up to a rookie year. Honestly, playing at an MVP caliber level. I would not be surprised if Bueckers gets the MVP award this year. She's been named the All-Star captain opposite of Caitlin Clark, and she's putting up 26 points per game on 56% shooting. That is insane for a guard. She is playing great basketball, shooting 42% from 3. Everything is going up. The rebounds are up to 5.3. Assists are also up to 5.3. She is playing like an MVP type player. Then next is Brittany Griner. It goes down to 12 points per game, and Brittany has also missed a little bit of time, but I think she's been a great addition. Yes, her offensive points per game numbers are down, as well as rebounds and assists, but she's been a great complement to Paige. I wanted this offseason to our number one goal to be a big who can play the pick and roll with Bueckers, and I think Griner has exceeded those expectations. She's been great with Bueckers as kind of a 1-2. She's the roller, and she's shooting 56% from the field, so it's not like she's not shooting the ball well. She's just not scoring as much because she hasn't had to do as much, and at 35 years old, I think that's pretty normal, and Griner has been great. She's also under contract for next year if we would like to have her, and at this rate, I don't see why not unless she retires. Then we have Arike Gumbawale, who is currently out with a strained left hip. Up until she got hurt, she's been playing a lot better. I know she's never going to be at that 20 point per game score that she was before Bueckers got here, but I think it's taken her some time, yes, but she's finally starting to fill into that secondary kind of maybe mentorish type of role. She's getting to her age 30 season, and we have seen the injury concerns with her that last year, and then now they're going to start popping up this season, and she is a free agent, so I'm not sure if Agumbawale's long-term future is here. There was a long period of time where she was looked at as the face of the franchise, but I think that could be getting replaced by Bueckers. But she's shooting 11.6 points per game, 3.2 assists, 53% from the field, 35% from three, a lot better than she was a year ago. So I think she's starting to find her role, despite the fact she's now injured with a hip injury, which everybody's injured with a hip injury. Then you got Tyasha Harris, the first bench player, who's playing pretty good. She started a lot of games now with Agumbawale going out. 8.1 points per game. A lot of similar numbers to last year. They're a little bit better in the shooting splits. She's been great as a backup point guard. I think she's also a free agent at the end of this year, though, and there's going to be a lot of teams that view Harris as a starting point guard, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to keep her around as a backup after this season, so we will take advantage of what we got out of Tyasha Harris. Then we got Lee Uru up next. He's only played in 5 games, you can see. But in those 5 games, she's been pretty good. 7 points per game this year, 6.4 rebounds. Now that she's not a starter, I think she's played a lot better. And I like her as a backup center. She's just had a hard time staying healthy this season. Then there's Maddie Siegrist, who's also with a severe left ankle sprain for the next month and a half. 6.3 points per game for her, 4.3 rebounds. She's shooting the ball a lot better. She just doesn't really have a role in this offense. And it's just taking some time, but I don't think Siegrist is really ever going to develop into that number 3 overall pick. But she's been a decent role player for us this year. Louisa Geisa-Snyder's up next. I like her a lot as well. She, again, has dealt with some injury issues, but even though she only averages 6.1 points per game, I think she has been electric off the bench when given the opportunity. The rebounds are pretty high as well. She shoots the ball well. She is a great backup center, which is why I think if we have to lose somebody like Uru or if we get some hurt in the front court, Lisa Geisa-Snyder does a good job of filling in. So I like what we have out of her. Hopefully she's healthy now. She can start to stay that way. Then we have the number 1 overall pick in this past draft, Taylor Santos out of South Carolina. Unfortunately, she has not really seen a lot of the court, and it hasn't been a good rookie season for Santos. Now, we took a risk, if you remember, drafting her at number 1 over Jazz Mann, who was easily the better player, but we didn't need a point guard, which is what Mann was. Instead, we went with positional value and a high upside in Taylor Santos, and we're seeing why she needed a lot of time to work because she's not been shooting the ball very well this year. She does have that sky-high potential, though. Hopefully, it might take a couple years, but she starts to get to that point. The goal was for her to be the Agumbawale replacement, but right now we're not really seeing that. So hopefully Santos can kick it into gear into the second half of the season. Then we get to the other starter, who's all the way down here because her points per game is not very high, and that's DeWanna Bonner. Now, despite her fact that her points per game are not very high, I don't think that's necessarily a knock to her. Yes, she's not shooting the ball well, but we haven't really asked her to shoot the ball that much. There's been plenty of games where she goes by, she doesn't even attempt a basket. She's 38 years old, and at this point, she is more of a mentor for these players and a defensive beast on the wing, which is something we were missing last year. She's won multiple championships. Last year, she won one with the Mercury. Now she comes over to Dallas, and she's taking a reserve role. Not sure, though. The only wild card with that is how she feels. Bonner, we've seen, likes to play with Alyssa Thomas because that's her partner. And I'm not sure how she feels about taking such a backseat role for Dallas at this point in the season. She's been a good sport about it, but as the trade deadline approaches, could Bonner ask to go somewhere else? That's something to keep an eye on. Then we rounded out with Maisha Hines-Allen, who's been a good starter for us. She's back healthy, which is good. She's been the 5th starter for the team. Again, kind of like Bonner, doesn't ask to do much in terms of the offensive production. She's more of a defensive player. And then Diamond Miller also, who's seen her role really regress this year, 4.3 points per game. But I think she's been pretty decent. She's a good second teamer as well. Never going to be a number 2 overall pick like she was drafted. That's just not going to happen. And then Isaiah James is the last one who's last in points per game. 3.3, shooting the ball a lot better, but, just not really clicking at that point. So that's our stats. As far as the rebounds leader for our team, you see it was Griner with 7.5. Assists is Paige. She also has a steal per game. Blocks is Griner with 1.7, which is pretty impressive. If we go to the league leaders now, we'll take a look at the rest of the league. Paige does average the most points per game with 26.3, only 0.3 higher than the other All-Star captain, Caitlin Clark. And then you got Skylar Diggins, who, despite the Fire having the worst season we've seen in quite some time, Skylar Diggins has been incredible for Portland. 22.3 points per game. She has carried that offense. She came over in the offseason in a trade because Noelle Quinn, her former coach at Seattle, was the new head coach of Portland, and she followed her there. Now that Quinn's not there, I don't know what the future looks like. She is going to be one person at the deadline who is going to get a lot of attention. But the only thing is she is 35. So if you're trading for her, you're getting her for this year, which she's playing at an all-star level season. But how long are you going to get her after that, which might deter some teams? Diggins could even ask for a buyout. So there's a lot of wild cards here, but she's definitely going to be a name to look for at the trade deadline. As far as rebounds per game, it is Dominique Malagna of the Storm with 15.6. She also set a record this year, if you remember, with 32 rebounds in a game. That is a new record for the W. She is really starting to come into her own as a second-year player. Then you got Angel Reese with 13.3, Satu Sabali with 12, and then a Boston Kiki Iriafin and Cameron Brink round out the double digits. Your assist leader with 6.8 is Alyssa Thomas, to nobody's surprise. Last year's finals MVP is just a threat at all three levels. She's almost averaging a double-double. And then next is Veronica Burton of the Sparks, who was named to an All-Star game. If you look at her stats, I don't really see it, but nonetheless. Your steals leader is Nneka Ogwumike of the Aces. She's been really good for Las Vegas, tapping into that former MVP potential, but she is out for the next 2 weeks with a sprained left knee. And then your block leader is Malagna with 1.7. Griner is also at 1.7, but she doesn't qualify because she did miss some time. So those are your league leaders. As far as the rookies, here are how this year's crop of talent is playing. Your top points per game is Laco Love from the Toronto Tempo. And yes, that minutes per game is correct. Toronto, I don't know what's wrong with their system. They have games where they just play all 5 of their starters the entire game. It's weird, but that's why a lot of these Tempo players' stats might be a little inflated because they play literally the whole game. But nonetheless, Laco Love was the number 3 overall pick out of Stanford after Mann and Santos at 1 and 2. Wasn't really known who would go next. It was Laco Love, and she's played pretty good for the Tempo, all things considered. Jazz Mann, the number 2 overall pick, 13.7 points per game. She has been really good for Seattle. They might have lucked into their face of the franchise for the next little bit with that number 2 overall pick. Then Letitia Kemp of the Valkyries, the 5th pick in the draft out of Michigan, is the only other rookie averaging double digits. Your rebound leader is Laco Love as well with 6.7. And then you got Elizabeth Kitley of Connecticut averaging 5 rebounds per game. She was a second-round pick, and she's playing a lot better. So again, a good find by the Sun in that second round. Your assist leader with 2.5 is Jazz Mann, as well as Jemai Pollard of Washington, which is interesting because they have Sonia Citron, but it's the number 6 overall pick out of Illinois, who's doing a good job also facilitating that offense. Steals, you have De'Erica Leonard of Las Vegas with 0.8, as well as Jazz Mann and Delisha Hill of the Valkyries. And then your block leader with half a block is Kyriata Diaby of the Indiana Fever. So that's going to do it for this portion of the episode. Well, that's going to do it for most of the episode. Lastly, we will come out of the All-Star break playing the Portland Fire, who, again, are the worst team in the league, so we will see them on the other half of the break. But that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope that this helped you get a little bit more up to date with what's going on in the league, and I can't wait to get into the second half of the season because I am really enjoying this franchise. Honestly, it might be my favorite franchise going right now. So, hope you guys do as well. If you do, make sure you drop that like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more MyWNBA content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.